Moving to a new city can be intimidating, and it'd be nice if you had someone to give you the inside info only the locals knew before moving, right? Well, that's what I'm gonna do today. I've lived here for about 5 years after moving from California, and there are many things I've learned about Arizona and Phoenix in particular, and a lot of things I wish I knew prior to moving here, things that would help me fit in or feel like a local, and so I'm gonna let you in on that inside info right now. I'm Trev Talks, and let's get into it. Now, the first thing you should know about is our two kind of crazy weather scenarios that happen. No, not the heat, but they are called monsoons and haboobs. Yes, that is their name. And a haboob is basically a giant dust storm with a ton of wind that comes through, and they usually happen a couple times a year, and they only last maybe an hour or two, wherever, it depends where you are in that storm, and they are quite scary. My first time experiencing them, we were driving and we had to pull over because you could not see past the car in front of you. It was very scary. And ours, I don't think this is normal. At the same time, it was raining like crazy, so the streets were just flooded with brown, muddy water. It's a scary thing, and they're very unique. And actually, I've seen it where lightning actually goes up inside the dust storm, and it's unique. It almost looks like spider webs because the lightning doesn't come down and hits the ground. It almost is just up there bouncing off. It's a crazy thing. Haboobs are pretty gnarly. And then the next thing is monsoons, which are basically just hurricane type storms that happen, and honestly they come out of nowhere. So the first one I experienced, I was at my brother-in-law's rehearsal for his wedding out here. I wasn't even living out here yet. And we're at the rehearsal, and it's kind of cloudy, normal weather, not much wind or anything. And then literally out of nowhere, within 15 minutes, there are hurricane-like winds. It is raining like crazy. There is lightning. I mean, palm trees are at 90 degrees. Other trees are laying in the streets. The streets are flooded with water. Within about 15 minutes, it went from normal, calm weather to an insane hurricane. These tend to jump out of nowhere. These typically happen in July and August, and they are much more common than haboobs. I'd say 5 or 6 times a year. Even though last year there was only 1 or 2, but that's not the norm. And so you have to be prepared for this, especially as a homeowner. Like, a monsoon can really damage your house, especially if you have like things like trees or things that could fall over into your house, because they are just super high winds, tons of rain and lightning, and they're really cool to watch and a nice break from the heat, especially in the months when they happen in July and August, but they are kind of scary, as you can tell, to be a part of. So something that's really going to make you feel like a local is if you can understand the roads. This is kind of anywhere you move, but especially in Phoenix, you can actually learn the roads very quickly because they're on a grid system. And all that means is our roads basically go all the way east-west or all the way north-south. And the easiest way to know this is that everything that is east-west is going to have a street name. So things like Thunderbird, Camelback, Cactus, Bell Road, those are all east-west roads. And then everything with a number is going to be north-south roads. So 7th Street, 21st Ave, those are going to be north-south roads. And how you understand kind of where things are is in the middle of the north-south. The only one with a name that I know of is Central. And then everything to the west of Central is going to be an avenue. Everything to the east is going to be a street. So 7th Street is going to be east of Central, 7th Ave is going to be west of Central, and so you can see how you can kind of learn where things are very quickly. So if you hear 101st Street, you know you are very, very East Valley, and then all you have to do is memorize the different major road names. So if they say 101st Street and Bell Road, which you know is near the 101, you know they're in the East Valley, kind of close to the 101. See how you can just kind of get things a little bit easier? Some other things with the roads, a big one is going to be the time-changing traffic. This is unique and it sounds weird, and there's only a few roads that do it, though. I lived off one called 7th Street, and this road would change, the middle lane would change directions depending on the hour. There were no blockades, there's just a sign. So in the morning when traffic flowed to downtown, that middle lane went towards downtown. In the afternoon, it actually switched directions and go away from downtown when people are going away from work. And you're reading the sign and it's kind of confusing, and it is, and it sounds kind of scary, and it is a little bit scary because you don't know if you can be in there or not, and you could be coming into head-on traffic. And so just know that that is not always a turn lane. If you see those signs up there, you have to read it for each different street. That might have that sign, but it's only a few spots that I've seen that actually have that. And then the HOV lanes are another thing you should know. I came from California, where HOV lanes have double yellow lines. You can't go in and out, and there are always HOV lanes. Ours, you can go in and out at any time, and they're only HOV lanes during certain hours. So like in the morning when there's high traffic, and then in the afternoon when people are coming home from work. And then all other times, anyone can be in those lanes, including the weekends. They're open for anyone. They're not always in HOV lane, and you can always jump in and out. And there are also some places with traffic cameras that you need to be aware of. So those are usually in higher end areas like Paradise Valley or Scottsdale, where there are traffic lights, and I think it's like 7 miles per hour over, they'll take a picture of your license plate and get you. So if you're not used to that, basically just don't be speeding and you won't be hit by those. But that's something you should know because they are a little bit of a surprise if you get that light flash in your face. That might have happened to me before. Another unique thing is kind of our political stance. We seem to be a pretty purple state. We don't know which one we are. Historically, Arizona has always been a red state. We have a Republican governor, and we've made a lot of Republican type decisions in the beginning. So with COVID, we were one of the first states to open up, and we removed the mask mandate very soon. We had students going into classroom very quickly. I haven't worn a mask in a store in like the last 3 months because there hasn't been a mask mandate. So we've been very open in that sense. But then we voted Democrat in the 2020 election. So where we are as far as political stance, it seems to be we are very middle ground as of right now. It could change in the future if our governor becomes a Democrat, but we don't know where that is going right now. So the political stance seems to be very middle of the road. I don't find a ton of like super strong on either side. Like I haven't met a ton of Arizona natives that are super Republican or super Democrat. It seems to be, for the most part, I guess maybe a little bit more calm, especially compared to California, where I'm from, where it is extremely liberal state. I don't have that same feel, but we are having a lot of people move from California, so maybe we are turned into that. Who knows? You should learn to love hiking if you are going to move to Phoenix. You gotta learn to love the desert landscape. People from lush states over in the east and the Midwest, and they hear the desert landscape, it sounds boring, and at first it is, but then you learn to love it, and there is some beauty inside of it. And you also should learn to love hiking because it is one of our best things to do. You get a great view, it's a nice outdoor activity, and it is just a great way to escape the normal things of life. So I love to hike. Ever since I've moved here, I guess I can say I love to hike. I did not before, but it is such a big deal here that I have learned to enjoy it myself. One thing that would actually make you feel more comfortable about moving here is that I've met very few people that actually were born and raised in Arizona. That is a very rare thing to come across. Most people move to Arizona. Like, it's kind of a saying that everyone's Arizona sports teams are their second favorite team because they have the team that they originally came from, and then they moved to Arizona and just started supporting the teams that are here also. So it is very rare to find someone that actually grew up here and stayed here their entire lives. And so don't feel too out of place if you are moving to this place, because most people also moved here with you. Another thing that will make you feel really out of place and maybe even made fun of by the locals is pronouncing different things and different phrases that you should know if you are going to live in Arizona. And the first one is this word right here. This is not pronounced Tucson. This is pronounced Tucson. This is a major city. This is where the U of A is. And that is just something you will easily be made fun of. And then another one is Prescott. This is not Prescott. Think of it like biscuit. It is Prescott. Do not say Prescott. You will be corrected, especially from those who live in Prescott. This word right here, this is a cactus. It is not pronounced saguaro. It is pronounced saguaro. Just another thing you should know. A few terms you should know is the valley, which is basically anywhere in the greater Phoenix area. We are in a giant valley, and so anywhere in between, all the way from over in Surprise to way over in Scottsdale, that's all the valley, and maybe even a little bit larger than that. Another phrase is the dry heat. You've probably heard this. It is basically that we do not have a humid climate, and all you need to know is that a dry heat is better than a humid heat. So just say that and you will be loved and embraced by the locals. And lastly, this is kind of a negative term. It is a snowbird. It's not really negative in itself, just people don't like it because it typically refers to someone who is wealthy. And this is just someone who moves to Arizona or Phoenix specifically in the cooler months. So in the fall and winter, they move from their super cold states and move here over the winter, so they get to escape escaped the snow. So where they have 10 inches of snow, it is 70 degrees here, and you can be playing golf in the middle of December. Someone who moves basically annually for that is called a snowbird. There are two big negatives that really you should know, and you just have to embrace and understand this is part of the state. And the first one is going to be the water. The water here is absolutely horrible. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it just is. The tap water does not taste good. It's because we have a hard water, it is not filtered well, and it leaves like kind of spots on your dishes, and your laundry soap may not work as well. Your skin can get dried out, your hair can get dried out, and so it's a not good thing. The easiest way to combat this is to install a water softener, especially if you own a house. It's a great thing to do. If you are in an apartment, you just have to hope that they already have one installed. A lot of places do because the water is so bad here, but just know that tap water is not good. And then the second thing that you just have to understand, and hopefully it's eventually changed, is that our schools are very underfunded. We are the 49th worst funded state in the country, and our teachers are very well underpaid, and you just have to know that's part of it, and that maybe your students may not be having as nice of a technology in the classroom, but the good thing is that the teachers are doing their job. And although we are one of the worst funded states in the country, we tend to finish in the middle of the pack of test scores in the 20s, so it shows that our teachers are doing as best they can with the resources they have. The last thing, which you already know, but this is by far the worst thing, and you have to understand how to combat it, is the heat. The heat in Phoenix is horrible. It gets up to 120 degrees and it is brutal. You don't want to go outside. You just want to be in your AC house or your air-conditioned work, and you just don't go outside, which sucks. But what you have to understand is that the heat damages a lot of things, and it damages them quicker. And one of the first things that you'll realize, a lot of things with your car stop working sooner rather than later. So your air condition doesn't work as well. Your car battery is probably going to die sooner rather than later. Or maybe your paint starts to burn out. And another thing with your car is that you need to have a sunshade. You just do. If you do not have that, you will not be able to touch your steering wheel. It is way too hot, and it's going to take too long for your AC to kick in. You have to have a sunshade when you're out in the sun. Along with this, like, your car oil is probably not going to last as long because of the heat. It just burns through it. More things about the heat is that you can't really take your dog out in a walk in the middle of the day, especially over summer. Actually, one thing you'll see is that dogs will have booties on, which are basically like socks or shoes that your dog wears to protect them from the heat, because the ground is so ridiculously hot. Even though you should already not be walking in 120-degree weather, if you really wanted to, you could get your dog some booties, which is a funny thing to see. You also have to know it just does not cool down at night. Was a big shock for me. I played basketball in college, and we went and played at night. I got out of the gym at like 10 o'clock, and it was 105 degrees at 10 o'clock at night. That just doesn't make sense. Somehow the air is just hot. So basically the heat damages just about anything and everything. All machines that are outside are going to last for a shorter time period. Your plants are going to likely die over summer because it gets so hot and you have to really water them or even shade them, because the heat is so bad, and you have to stay hydrated. Hospitals often get a lot of people with heat damage or heat strokes in the middle of summer, especially on hikes. Do not go on a hike at 3 o'clock when it's 120 out in July. Just don't do it. Do it when the sun is coming up or when it is going down. So just know the heat is bad, and you have to find ways to protect yourself and especially your pets from the heat. That is everything I wish someone told me before moving to the valley. You should know that term by now. And so if you got anything out of this, leave me a like below to help support the channel. My name is Trevor Bragg. I'm a real estate agent here in the Phoenix area. So if you are thinking of moving here, and now that you got a bunch of great tips on how to be a local here, feel free to reach out to me. My number is going to be on the screen, and I will catch you in the next one.